In the middle of California's driest desert, just along southern State Route 86, you can find sun-kissed seashells strewn across the ground. They are signs of a giant lake that has come and gone over the past millennia, a place called Lake Cahuilla. Today, the much smaller and shrinking Salton Sea takes its place. In a new geological study, scientists have found that Lake Cahuilla may continue to play a role in helping to trigger major earthquakes along the southern portion of the famed San Andreas Fault, one that is well overdue for a giant, big one, in densely populated Southern California. Other major quakes have, of course, struck other parts of the fault, including the devastating 1906 quake near San Francisco. But the Great Lake hasn't filled to its maximum depth of more than 300 feet since the early 1730s, when George Washington was just a newborn. The San Andreas Fault is a fault between two giant plates of the Earth's crust, the North American and Pacific plates. When they meet in California, unimaginable stress builds up as they push against each other. The fault continues to strain, causing a slip deficit of about 2 centimeters every year. The southern portion of the fault historically releases this energy in a violent rupture every 180 years, give or take 40 years. But that hasn't changed for about 300 years. Eventually, this is going to happen as a big earthquake, Yuri Fialko, a professor of geophysics at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and one of the study's authors, told Mashable. Without the giant lake there, putting enormous pressure on the San Andreas and contributing to a more vulnerable fault, the upcoming big earthquake, the Southern California megaquake that could cause 1,800 deaths, $200 billion in damage, and untold disruption, would likely be delayed even further. But most importantly, the fault would also likely accumulate more stress, leading to a stronger quake. Most importantly, the potential delay is no reason to stop preparing for a bad quake, says John Vidal, a seismologist at the University of Southern California who was not involved in the study. But a bigger, delayed quake, if it does happen, isn't the end of the world. It would at least allow people to better prepare, make sure their structures are more resilient, and so on. The evidence that Lake Cahuilla triggers big quakes is compelling. Over the past 1,000 years or so, the Colorado River flowing into this low-lying desert valley has filled the lake 6 times, according to geological studies. And with each filling, a major quake occurred, the last of which occurred in the 1720s. As many as 6 major earthquakes rocked Southern California as the lake filled. For the past century, the much smaller, less dense Salton Sea filled a desert basin, fed largely by agricultural runoff. Now it's evaporated. Water shortages are increasing in the hotter, drier West, and farmers have found ways to irrigate crops more efficiently, reducing the amount of runoff that flows into the artificial sea. In our modern world, where the Colorado River now supplies water to about 40 million people, there simply isn't enough water to create a vast natural lake. The vast Lake Cahuilla won't be there again, at least not for as long as civilization survives.